Today we are continuing our series called What is Church? Everyone has an idea of what church is in their minds. When I felt God calling me to start a new church, I felt that I needed to understand what the Bible said about what church is supposed to be. That's what this series is all about. Last week we said that church is people. This week's message is titled, Church is a Gathering of Imperfect People. In Matthew 9, verses 9 through 12, we read about Jesus calling a man named Matthew to be his follower. This will be the same Matthew that I'm named after. Matthew was a tax collector. Even today, we're not overly fond of paying taxes. But in those days, a Jewish tax collector was considered the lowest of lows. To begin with, these men collected taxes from Jews for the Romans. The Jews were oppressed by the Romans and resented paying taxes to them. But that was not the end of it. These Jewish tax collectors were almost universally corrupt. They would collect much more than just what the Romans required. They made themselves rich at the expense of their own people. So you can imagine this made them very unpopular. Matthew, from all we know, was no different. He basically stole from his own people to make himself rich. But Jesus came to him. Jesus sought Matthew out and said, "Follow me." But Jesus didn't stop there. Jesus went to Matthew's house. He sat down for a meal with Matthew. While he was there, many other of what the religious leaders of those days called tax collectors and sinners showed up. Jesus didn't go running out. Rather, he stayed and hung out with these people that most Jews would have had nothing to do with. And remember, Jesus was a Jew too. But that's still not the entire story. You see, Jesus didn't just invite Matthew to be his follower. Jesus made Matthew one of his 12 disciples. Jesus had hundreds of people that followed him during that day, but he chose 12 to be part of his inner circle. Matthew was one of those 12. As flawed as Matthew was before coming to Jesus, he was still chosen to be part of Jesus' 12. His past no longer mattered. You see, Jesus wanted to hang out with regular, imperfect people. So, what is church? Well, church is a gathering of imperfect people. The Bible is filled with stories of imperfect people. David is called a man after God's own heart, but he committed adultery. Moses was chosen by God to lead his people out of slavery, but not before he committed murder. Peter was one of Jesus' 12 disciples. He pretty much started the Christian church, but when Jesus was arrested and crucified, Peter denied having ever known him. So you see, church is a gathering of people, like we said last week. But it's a gathering of imperfect people. If that describes you, then you might want to check out Journey Church of Haines City. If, however, you're already perfect, we love you, but this probably isn't the place for you. You see, we all have junk, and we want to take it to Jesus so he can help us work through it, to deal with it, and to get free from it. That's our hope, that we can journey together as we seek to deal with our junk. Because church is a gathering of imperfect